Hey, what's happening, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, whatever day you're watching this, whatever time frame you're watching this, wherever you are watching this. My name is Jeff, and yes, if you can probably tell, I sound a little bit different. Not sick, but we went 2 years, the Easton family did. We went with 2 years without this little thing that you may or may not have heard of called COVID. And this past week, it hit our house, and so we're good. We've come through the whole, quarantine stage, if that's even a thing anymore. And we are fine. We have kind of the residual effect of it, but everybody's good, and I am glad that we are past that, because if you had it, it is a pain, right? It's not something that's fun, and it definitely kicks your tail, makes you tired, and our energy level is still trying to get back up to kind of where it was, but that's okay. So, don't know where you're watching from. Why don't you right now, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook or wherever you're at, why don't you let us know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from, and just kind of give us a shout out. Let us know who you are, what's going on, and we want to make sure that we want to connect with you right where you're at. Here in St. Louis, it is. It's not as cold, but it has been cold. I think at our house, we actually got about 9 to 10 inches of snow. Other parts of the city got a little bit more, a little bit less, but anywhere between about 8 to 11. Some places even 12 inches of snow this past week. Kids been off school. It's been wild. It's been crazy. But I just want to first of all say hello. Just make sure everybody's doing well, doing good. And I'm excited about today because I've been talking with just a few people within our team, outside of our team, and just kind of trying to uh, get some ideas about some different thoughts that have been running through my head over the last couple weeks. If you know anything about us, anything about Midtown, you do know that we moved back in 2019. In 2020, we began to start the whole church plant process, and then COVID hit, all these things, all these procedures and things we couldn't do, and all the other rules that came along with that, just kind of really slowed us down. And in the process, it brought some disappointments. It brought some times where we had to just kind of stop, regain some traction, rethink about a few things. But looking back now, a long time later, there are some things that we've really learned, not just individually and personally about ourselves, but what is it really that we're supposed to be doing, or that we are doing, that we really could make better in areas of focus that maybe we don't need to spend so much time on, but then also in the other same aspect is that bring light and bring kind of to the forefront some things that maybe we should focus on more. And one of those things is really understanding and know and hear my heart. And I think that most people will when I say this. But one thing that we've learned throughout this whole process and throughout this entire journey with Midtown and everything that we have gone through and everything that we are currently still facing and just kind of walking through in this process is the idea that certain things in life that you maybe were trained or thought or saw or even living in, maybe some of those things aren't as important, and maybe there are some things that we should be talking about, should be doing, that we haven't been doing because it hasn't in the church world, quote, been the right way. Well, I've realized that there are some things, especially within this area and this realm of the church world, and things that we have seen, and not that any of it's wrong, not that any of it's bad. It's just that one thing I think we have learned is this idea of maybe at times it's not as important to focus on just the brick and the mortar, the buildings and the this and and that, because really at the core, Jesus isn't just strictly about the building per se. He's not just about and hear me. There's a lot of great churches and a lot of great ministries and everything else that do have this, and that's wonderful. I have nothing against it. But for us and just where we're at, I think our goal right now is who are we speaking to? Who are we hearing from? And who are we giving Jesus the opportunity to change some mindset and some lives? Not so much we have to have 15 campuses all across the world with this, that, and the other. Because for me, one thing I realized in looking back is if I focus on all of that, but not focus on the people that Jesus has wanted me just to have a relationship with and a conversation with, that I'm really missing out on the people with just focusing on the building. Because the truth is, it doesn't take the building to change the person. It just takes a conversation, a relationship with Jesus mixed in for people's lives to be changed in the matter of really just moments. And so I think just to there's some people just kind of maybe you're new, maybe you're like, what is Midtown? Well, Midtown, yes, it says Midtown Church, but I think more importantly than just the term church on the logo, I think it really stands out in the fact that Midtown is just a place of a bunch of people who are really focusing on a few things like valuing other people right where they're at, valuing that person enough to know that no matter where they're at in life, their journey with Jesus, no matter what their past may have brought or may is bringing or any all that other stuff, like the fact that we are here to value people is really what Jesus did thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And a couple other things is not just valuing people. That's probably one of the biggest things, but being generous, giving. And no, it doesn't just have to be money and all that. People get really weirded out kind of psychologically and mentally and check out the minute that they hear the ideas of money within the church because of so many bad things that have happened in the past and how it's this and how it's that. And it's not just money. Being generous and just being kind is something that a lot of us miss the mark on every single day. But but in reality, Jesus never missed the mark on being generous because he just was kind to every person despite where they were at in life. And so valuing people, being generous, and quite honestly, I don't think we do enough of this, especially in the church ministry, Jesus serving world, is having fun. Um, I think sometimes people don't give churches or ministry or Jesus a chance because it seems more like a dictatorship instead of a place that you really can build relationships and truly have fun. So I think those things, there's more, but I think those are important to remember and kind of where we're at right now with Midtown. And I was talking just over the last couple weeks with a few of my friends and a couple people on our team, and I really want to today, and if you've received some of our text messages or maybe on social media, you've seen where we talked about how today we're going to talk about this idea in this new season called conversations. Now, I want to clear it up, and I did not, and we did not do anything wrong in the sense of calling it a season, because most churches and most places sometimes they refer to it as a series, and those are fine. It's a collection of different teachings or a collection of talks and a collection of different ideas that fall in place with this one main idea, and that's good. And we could have called it a series, but I wanted to call this conversations, and really just kind of lay the groundwork in the sense of a new season, because I think that this idea of conversations could go on for a long time. Now, here's what it's going to look like. Just so that everyone knows, conversations and what we're going to do on Sundays, and then honestly, what we're going to also build in throughout the week is different things like podcast and video podcast and quick snippets on Instagram or Facebook, if people even use that anymore, or YouTube, and the goal is this. The goal is to bring about healthy conversations, starter pieces that begin to help people come back into alignment and come back into trust with who Jesus is, what Jesus can do, and the people that call themselves Jesus followers. Are we really true and are we really real or not? Because the Bible talks about in many different ways and many different books and many different stories about how conversations really are the starting piece to how a lot of people's lives within the Bible, and I can name off a lot of different people, but how a lot of different people's lives within the Bible changed radically, not because of a sermon that preached at somebody or a talk that talked down to somebody. See, no one really wants to change if you always make them feel bad. No one really is getting excited about the idea of following Jesus if they think Jesus is nothing but a dictator and somebody who just looks at them as a no good nobody with nothing really to offer in that moment. No, see, Jesus is really this incredible Savior that we believe and that I've experienced, and maybe you've experienced, who has changed our life, even in the moment of maybe what the world says is wrong and not doing well and not doing good and maybe doubting and maybe this and maybe that. It's not in those moments that people gain trust with Jesus. No, it's in the moments where people can relate to other people who have messed up, who have done some things that maybe, yeah, we don't have to share all of our story and all of the mess ups, but just so relatable in the sense of we're not preaching to, we're just having conversations with. And so today in this new season called Conversations, I just want to talk about this idea where it came from within my heart, and then give kind of maybe some just um, good thought to some people who maybe you've seen church done this way or church done that way. And maybe you're just a little bit tired of it, or maybe you're a little bit confused. I just want to bring some hope in a conversation to let you know that at Midtown for the next don't know how many weeks, months. I don't know. I don't. I'm not going to put a limit on that because we want to bring other people in. This isn't going to be a season of where we talk about conversations and have conversations that you're just going to hear from me. No, we're actually going to do some different interviews. We're going to hear from other people. We're going to hear some stories. We're going to have have some moments where we talk about some topics that maybe the church is ignoring, and other ministries are ignoring because it doesn't look. And when I say this, hear what I say. But sometimes I think we think that church has to be sexy instead of just relatable. It's not our job to become just a place that does something just like somebody else because it works for them. That's wonderful. And I'm glad it's working many different ways in many different scenarios, through many different people in many different areas of this country and this world. We need diversity. We need different things for different people. That's amazing. But it doesn't have to be done one way, the same way, all the time, every way, every week, just like everyone else. And so today, I want to make it known that wherever you're at, wherever you are in your walk, that we'll say your walk with Jesus, your journey with Jesus, wherever you're, even sitting today, where you're watching from today, hey, that's cool. But know that you can take off the shield of, hey, I don't want what he has to say. I don't. I'm not here, and we're not here to try to make you want anything. We're just here to try to let you know, hey, listen, you're not by yourself, that you don't have to do life by yourself, that you don't have to be by yourself, that you know what, it really doesn't matter to us exactly where you're at in the sense of we're here to judge you. No, we just want you to let you know whether you're at somebody else's house that you don't really want to be at, or you've done something that you're ashamed of, or there's things in your past that nobody, listen, that's okay. This isn't a time where you have to sit down, type out your confessions, feel terrible, and then go to bed tonight wondering who and what is watching you. No, no, no. We just want to let you know that we're here today to start healthy conversations. Now, I want to say this too. What this isn't going to turn into is a gossip hour filled with interviews and hearing from other people, talking about other places and talking about other people and talking about how they do this and how that's wrong. No, we're not here to point out the wrongs of people. We're here to point in and to bring in the hope, the realness, the authenticity, and the greatness and grace of Jesus. We're not here to point out the wrongs of man. I think that's something, unfortunately, that we've gotten mixed up and messed up in within the church and within trying to portray who Jesus is the fact that we try to point out so many mistakes of people. See, Jesus didn't even have to point out the mistakes of people. He just had conversations, which then brought grace to people, which then changed their life and then caused change all around them. What are you talking about, Jeff? Well, I'm glad that we kind of brought that up because it started with a story about a short guy who did taxes, and tax season is coming up, and nobody likes taxes, right? Um, I have a great tax guy. Keith is an amazing tax guy. He loves Jesus. He's great with people. He's honest. He doesn't rip you off. But back then, the tax guy back in Jesus's day ripped people off, took advantage of their money, took more money than he should have. And it really hurt families. It really hurt people. And Jesus was just simply walking through this town and walking through just crowds of people. And the Bible says that when Jesus simply looked up in a tree. Now, before Jesus looked up in that tree, and we all, and maybe not all, but maybe we've heard this funny little story about Zacchaeus and the tree that Zacchaeus climbed up in. But see, before Jesus even looked up in the tree, a guy named Zacchaeus, the tax collector, the guy who ripped people off, he climbed up in the tree because he wanted to see this this guy that everybody talked about in Jesus. He didn't know him, didn't know much about him, heard people whispering about him, heard people talking about him, but he didn't really understand the purpose and the point of just this, man named Jesus who walked through towns and helped people and loved people. In fact, he probably couldn't even grasp the full concept of why and how this guy did it. He really didn't understand it because there was so much, there was so much unlove, unrest, and kind of just this these feelings where people, you had to belong to this social class and you had to belong to this social class to fit in. You had to have this much and you had to have that, and all these pieces put you within these different boxes of society to where you could only be in this box around this person, in this group around this person. And it was very confusing. It was very it was a time where people didn't really get it. People didn't understand it. And people were probably at this time messed up in the thinking that when Jesus walked on the scene and everybody talked about this guy who people, loved, and he loved everybody else, and he never really had a run in, he never really had a fight, he never had something bad to say about somebody. They didn't really grasp that concept. I think in today's world, we're kind of there. We're not too different from the world of when Zacchaeus and these people lived, right? Because how many of y'all know that if you, even in kind of crazy things like sports, right? I'm wearing a Cincinnati Reds hat. Now, the truth is, I love the Cincinnati Reds. Shout out to my Bengals, finally going to the Super Bowl. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the Patriots. Hey, hats off to Tom Brady. Tom Brady, you're a great player. You did amazing things. You won more Super Bowl rings than any other organization in the history of the NFL. Phenomenal player. Wish you would have gone to Ohio State, but you went to the other school up north. But, hey, whatever. But even in sports, we have we have this idea that if you like this team from this conference, then you're kind of looked down upon, right? That if you like this team, but you don't like this team, then you must not know really that much about sports? Or how about even in the same sports world where your team may be in a certain conference and there's another team who during the regular season you can't stand that's in your same conference, but hey, gosh forbid, like in the playoffs or even in the national championship game, that team who's in your same conference but in the regular season you hate with a passion, but now you're rooting for them because you're in the same conference, so that must be the right way to do it. Like, there's so many things in life, even within sports, that if you don't like this or you do like this or you talk like this or you've done this, that there's so much segregation, not just within skin color, but within separation of this and that. And this person said that if I did this, then I have to be over here, and then I have to be over here. There's just so much confusion. And so in reality, we're not very different than what was really taking place in the day of Zacchaeus. And he climbed up and he looked over and he's probably sitting up in the tree. Now, can you imagine like your tax guy, like climbing up in the tree in your backyard just to see what you're kind of talking about? That would look kind of weird, right? Like no one would really want to go back to him. His business would probably shut down. Things would get weird for him. Like, oh, you're the guy, like the grown man, the man that's in your 40s, not a kid that's playing in a clubhouse, but you're the guy that's climbing in a tree? Like, dude, you're weird. What's going on? But see, not only did he push past the fact that he really didn't give two craps about what people were going to think of him. No, in reality, he just wanted to see something that he really didn't understand because he had never seen it done before. And that was an authentic, true love, I guess, from a guy he didn't even know, but from a guy that he already heard about. And he just wanted to see what this big topic of Jesus was all about. And so he did. And so when he sat up in the tree, I don't know if he was like, eating something, eating some peanuts or a snow cone in the tree, watching Jesus, kind of spying on Jesus. Then that's kind of weird. But Jesus looked up and it caught Jesus' attention. And he's like, hey, Zacchaeus, why don't you come on down here? Because like there's a lot of people that are probably laughing at you right now that I don't really, whatever. But why don't you come on down? Because despite their laugh, I still want to have a conversation. And so he called him down. And the thing is Jesus didn't really just make some big grand party about this. No, what happened was he just went to Zacchaeus' house. And right then and there, he had a conversation with Zacchaeus. He had a conversation. He didn't have a platform with a microphone, and he didn't begin to tell him how bad he was because he did this or because he didn't do this or because he looked like this and because he came from this place. No, he just had a conversation that was meaningful, that was real, that was non-judgmental, and that was just simply caring. Now, I think some of those words are so simple, but so difficult within the English world that we live in, within English world, within the English language, within the modern world that we live in, because it even though they're simple words, they're very complex for us because as humans, we have become so judgmental that the idea of kind and caring and loving, authentic and real, like those things right there are so much underdone in today's society that people don't think that they can ever be done in today's society. But I think today that's the idea and the heart behind this conversations season. Conversations. So, and just kind of the start of conversations, real quick. What is the purpose of a Christian? Now, I know that some people might watch this and you might be watching this and you're like, oh, Jeff, come on, man. Like that's such an elementary concept. Like, duh, that's so stupid to even talk about. But I don't know that it's really an elementary concept because we made it so complex that we have people actually not running to Jesus. We have people hiding from this idea of Jesus because of the simple fact that we don't know how at times to be nice, caring, loving, non-judgmental. No, in reality, we throw up our walls and we throw up all of these things and we say, well, because people did this to me, then I have to do that to them. And because that's where they live and that's where they're at and that's what they don't have, then I can't be friends with them because of this, and this. Man, what are we missing out on? Well, we're missing out on conversations that bring peace, that can bring some clarity, that can bring some just maybe some simplicity to the sense of, hey, maybe people need to understand that they really are loved right where they are at. You know, I've been to many different churches, many different places, worked at many different churches, and involved and have met some wonderful people, some amazing, heartfelt, very good, amazing Christians. But as I was just kind of thinking about this over the last couple weeks, you know, in the day and age that we live in, the society we live in, there are people who ask, and quite honestly, when you stop and you take some inventory on who we are as individuals, as who we are as what we call as Christians, Jesus followers, what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean? Well, hopefully it means something good, but unfortunately, I don't know because of the lack of conversations and the lack of just true, raw, authentic love. I don't know that people know what Christians mean in its entirety anymore. I was having a great conversation via text a couple weeks ago with a family member of mine, and I love this person so much. And we've always been close, even though we don't live necessarily close right now. We've always been close, and we just started having conversation about different things that they're going through, and different things that we've been through, and different heartaches, and different just stuff, and sharing stories and having a real good conversation. And this person started asking me, well, you know, what is your goal? Like, what is it about Midtown, that what is it that you want to do? And I said, you know what? The truth is this: I can have and list all of our cultural values and all of our, you know, mission ideas and statements and all this and all that, and that's wonderful, and that's great. But at the core, like, I just want, and I think Jesus just wants us to have enough conversation that brings so much value to the person and where they're at, that they don't begin to think that just because they're not where we're at, that they're necessarily wrong, that they're necessarily bad, or that they're necessarily cast out and thrown out and nobody cares about them. I think it's just about the valuing aspect. Because the truth is, in some of the places that I've been, and some of the churches that I've seen, and some of the churches that I've been a part of, the idea of loving Jesus, that is the the thing that's said. But see, let me just pose a question, okay? Is it possible to really love Jesus without really valuing people? Why don't you write that down in maybe your notes, or I don't know, on a notepad? Because I think that's a question that I have to ask, and I want to ask myself every single day. That if I love Jesus, and if I say I love Jesus, and if I say I'm a Christian, but I can't value people, then um, do I really love Jesus? Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to get everything right all the time. That doesn't mean that we're always going to be perfect. No, absolutely not. But I don't think, and through some of the things that I've experienced and gone through, I don't think that that undervaluing people is something that Jesus appreciates, because those people that are being undervalued are his people in the first place, his people being messed with by really kind of arrogant people who think that they now have stepped in the shoes of Jesus. And because they call themselves, or we sometimes call ourselves a Christian, that gives us a right and an arrogance to act, to think, to look, to speak, and to live ways that we think are just the right ways. I'm not so sure that's really the idea in the world, and the love and the conversations that Jesus is looking for. See, valuing people, Valuing understanding, hearing them starts with a conversation, starts with a simple act of just sitting down, a non bias, unjudgmental, great conversation. You know what? We don't have to agree with everything that people say to value who that person is. See, the love that Jesus gives me, the love that Jesus offers you, the love that Jesus gives this world is an unconditional. It's an un it's not filled with so many conditions that you have to do this, and this. No, it's just I love you. And see, that's the idea of this whole series or season of conversations. So, what does it mean to be a Christian? What it means, I think, to be a Christian is somebody who loves Jesus, who knows that they're not perfect, not going to be perfect, who's going to mess up, and who doesn't have the right to tell everybody else that because they do mess up, that they're wrong, going to hell, and they have no chance. No, I don't think that's our purpose. I don't think that's God's plan. And I don't know that that's really what God's asking us to do, to let people know and scare them into heaven. Because if we're scaring them into heaven, then we're really just telling them you're just barely missing hell. No, see, heaven and hell are both real things, but we can't scare people into Jesus. That's not authentically who Jesus is. No, conversations of, hey, Jesus loves you right where you're at. He sees, he understands, he wants the best for your life. Is everything going to be perfect? No. Are we going to understand everything? No. Do we always agree? Do we always think that what's going on and taking place is great? No, absolutely not. Yes, you can be mad. Yes, you can be ticked. Yes, you can get upset. And for the people that haven't heard this before, hear me, because he can handle this. You are allowed to question and ask questions to God. I know, like some really like real deep theologian probably just their heart skipped a beat when I said that. But the truth is, God can handle your questions because God can handle it all. So yes, you can ask questions. You can be like, okay, God, for real, I didn't understand. I don't get that. That doesn't make sense. God, just come on, man. Like, yeah, you can, because it's in the simple conversations where sometimes we can find the simple answers that sometimes we have been looking for so long, but so many people are hiding them, trying to be real, but in reality, being fake. So let's begin this whole new season of conversations at Midtown. We want to hear from you. We want to know kind of like what's in your my hat's hurting. What's in your head? Like what kind of conversations do you want to have? What conversations may you be like, you know what, I've tried to ask some people before, but they've kind of pushed past it, or they've kind of ignored it. Well, hey, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's maybe I'm not saying we're always going to have the answer, but let's give a platform, a place so that people can be heard. I think that's what people want to be heard. This is not going to be a debate. This is not going to be something that turns into some political thing or some big, bashing moment. We're going to talk about this person, that church, this political way, no, 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 no. We don't have time for that. We've got to be about building people up, giving hope into a really hopeless and in society where people have so many questions but don't have someone to just say you're valued. So let's make this memorable, but let's make this valuable conversations about things and topics and ideas and questions that maybe we just don't know about. That's the goal for conversations. And that's where we're at Midtown. So here's how I want to end it. I want to let you know, first of all, we value you. First of all, we want to hear from you. First of all, well, actually, that's third. But another first of all is we want you to know that we don't have all of our stuff together. We don't expect anybody. Jesus doesn't expect us to have our stuff together. Jesus is just looking for some people like Zacchaeus in the Bible who wanted to have a conversation. And see, the end of that story is when Jesus went to Zacchaeus' house, had a very meaningful, obviously, conversation that he sat down, had some dinner with him. We don't know what he had, but we know he had a conversation, a good enough conversation to where Zacchaeus, in the middle of it, looked at Jesus and said, "You know what? Man, I'm so full of shame." Not because Jesus said, "You're a shameful, terrible, idiotic person." No, Zacchaeus just said, "Man, I did wrong. I treated people bad. Jesus, thank you for showing me your grace. Now help me to show other people's grace by giving back the money plus more that I took because I want to be that good. Thank you for having that conversation with me because you changed my heart and now help me to change some other people." That's the goal. That's the goal. So, to end this, here's what I want to do. I just simply want to pray for you. I want to pray that as we begin this conversation season, that this turns into a season that is productive, that is loving, that is caring, that is that is a meaningful moment for many people, maybe from many backgrounds, but moments to where we can build up some people's life to let them know that, hey, listen, we're having these conversations to bring value to your life so that you can bring value to this world. That's what we want to do. God, thank you so much for today. Thank you, God, that you've allowed us in our imperfect state, in our imperfect world, in our messed up minds sometimes, in our dumb ideas. God, thank you for letting us have moments like this where we begin to have conversations with multiple people from many different backgrounds. God, who might have a lot of different questions about so many topics. God, that's okay. God, let this be a safe place, a place where people begin to have conversation after conversation after conversation. But God, let this be a place that brings hope, that brings peace, that completely shows love above everything else, and let there be value instilled into people who have been undervalued by others for so long. God, let this be valuable, loving, wholesome conversations in the middle of a world that really needs it the most. God, we love you today. I pray for people, God, that are sick today, that God are feeling down and out, that really don't know what's going on. God, for people who are confused, who have been let down, who have been hurt, who feel like they're at the bottom. God, I pray, Lord, help us just to be a bunch of people, God, who rally behind every single person from every single background, going through every single scenario of life. God, that says, you know what? Hey, we just want to be, we just want to be Jesus, not some weird, fictitious, crazy, yelling, screaming, preachery type moment. No, no, no. We just want to be Jesus in the sense of bringing value to every person and love to every people in this modern society that we live in. God, we love you today. We give you thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, listen, we love you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Stay tuned because we are going to be doing different things in this season of conversations, whether that's on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Stay tuned. We'll be doing some interviews and we want you to be a part. Send in your questions, send in your requests, send in comments, and we want to make sure to help out any way we can. Have a great day. See you next week.